There are plenty of budget subwoofers available on the market right now, all coming in at different price points, each with their own advantages and disadvantages. Well, today we're going to be checking out one of those options, the Emotiva SE12, and seeing how it stacks up. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then stick around and we'll get into it right after the intro. Alright, so as I mentioned right in the beginning, today we'll be checking out Emotiva's budget subwoofer, the SE12. We've already reviewed other budget subs like the SVS SB1000 and the RSL Speedwoofer 10S, which used to be very similarly priced, but recently both of those subs have had price increases because of supply chain issues. So that's why we're excited to check out the SE12, as it seems like Emotiva is fine keeping their products priced lower, even in this market where it feels like there's almost a shortage on just about everything. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the subwoofer itself. The Emotiva SE12 has a 12-inch bottom-firing paper cone driver, along with a front-firing 12-inch passive radiator. These are mounted on a pretty sturdy, braced, and acoustically inert MDF cabinet, which should help to make sure we don't have any weird cabinet resonance. All of this is being powered by a built-in 200-watt RMS Class D amplifier, which can hit up to 400 watts peak, and of course that also gives us some connections on the back. The SE12 has everything you'd expect, like the left and right stereo RCA inputs and outputs, a dedicated LFE input, speaker level inputs, and settings for volume, crossover, phase, and auto power on. On the bottom, we also have an AC power inlet and a power switch. Emotiva also included some other nice features like an acoustically transparent limiter to protect the driver from clipping. All of these things end up giving the sub a rated frequency response between 28 and 200 Hz, all within 3 dB. But of course, we'll need to take a listen and see how deep it gets. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the specs, so now I want to talk about the Emotiva Airmotiv speakers and how this sub fits in with the rest of Emotiva's lineup. So recently we did a review of some Emotiva Airmotiv home theater speakers, and if you haven't checked that out already, we'll be sure to leave a link down in the description. You'll want to watch that video. Well, the SE12 fits right in with the rest of those speakers. It even has the same sort of leathery vinyl finish as the T1 Plus towers, which, in my opinion anyway, makes the sub look really nice, and you don't have to worry about fingerprints or anything like that. This subwoofer comes in below the RS11 reference series subwoofer, which we also reviewed, and that's pretty obvious considering the big price difference. Those also give you other nice features like a fancier finish and top-mounted control panel, but the SE12 keeps those on the back. The SE12 also comes with these pretty big permanently attached feet, which seem to do a pretty good job at isolating the cabinet from the rest of the room, and we also get this nice pin and cup cloth grille that's molded to match the rest of the Airmotiv speakers. But with all that out of the way, it was actually time to start testing the SE12 to see how it would perform. As usual, we tested this sub with both movies and music to get a feel for how it would react to a wide range of content and different frequencies. As we mentioned in our review of the Airmotiv speakers, we listened to the sub with that 5-channel surround sound system, and honestly we were really impressed with how it did with those speakers. The SE12 was pretty much a perfect complement to the towers, digging down deeper and just doing a great job of filling in those frequencies that the towers couldn't hit with way more output. But of course, this review isn't just about those speakers, so we went ahead and tested the SE12 in both our living room paired with our Aperion Audio Nova speakers, as well as our acoustically treated home theater where we run our usual Vandersteen speakers. And in both rooms, we were pretty happy with how the SE12 handled itself for movies. It definitely brought a lot more LFE to the room than the speakers themselves were capable of in full range mode, which was really nice to have while watching movies like Fury or Avengers Endgame. Now, when you want to talk about the quality of a certain type of bass, things can start to get a little tricky, but usually music is a good way of testing how well a sub can perform in those higher bass frequencies, and we'll also get an idea of how the sub responds to quick changes in the input signal, otherwise known as transient response. And this is where the SE12 started to show its weaknesses in the face of its bigger brother, the RS11. At times where a track would demand really visceral, impactful bass, the sub did seem a bit boomy, like it had a hard time getting that cone moving right away to deliver a big, impressive sound. But again, everything with sound is both subjective and relative. If you compare the subwoofer to something like the RS11, which literally costs $800 more, well, obviously you're going to start losing out on some of those attributes of a high-end subwoofer. At the same time, the subwoofer is also a definite improvement over something like the Klipsch R12SW that we checked out in our previous video. For music, the subwoofer performed alright for the $400 price tag, and for movies, with everything we tested it with, we were happy with the way it sounded. With that said, personally for a subwoofer around the $400 price point, the RSL Speedwoofer 10S, which we have also recently reviewed, does beat the SE12 in some aspects. But don't click away yet, because that's not the end of the story. The big problem with the Speedwoofer 10S is that the RSL just can't seem to get them in stock very often, so unless you're also interested in buying a full RSL surround sound system, you could end up waiting months for a Speedwoofer 10S to become available. It seems like they've become a pretty big victim of the supply chain issues that have been developing in the past few months. And the second problem is that RSL did end up raising the price of the Speedwoofer 10S to $430, which isn't a big increase, but it still brings the Speedwoofer 10S above that perfect $399 price point that the SE12 comes in at. And of course, the Speedwoofer 10S also features a smaller 10-inch driver compared to the 12-inch driver of the SE12, which again also has that passive radiator for even more output across a good portion of the rated frequency response. Then again, the SE12 is rated down to 28 Hz, while the Speedwoofer 10S is rated to go down to 24 Hz, and this is why comparing subwoofers is so tricky. In the end, we like both these subwoofers a lot, and we think they're a great value. But if you're in the need for a subwoofer right now, the Emotiva SE12 seems to always be in stock, and we think it's a worthy contender. We've started to really like the way the passive radiators sound, and we think they're a great trade-off between the speed and articulation of a sealed sub and the big output of a ported subwoofer. But with all that out of the way, I think it's time to wrap up this video. So I want to give Emotiva a huge thanks for sending over their SE12 so we can go ahead and check it out, and we hope you all really enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments on the Emotiva SE12, go ahead and let us know down in the comments section below, and we'll do our best to help you out. If you thought this video was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our future content. And as always, have an awesome day.